Hello, everybody. This is Jet Baker. What we're going to go over is how the Velocity Asset Management Portal simplifies contract and asset management. So without further ado, I'll just dive into the agenda here. And here's what we're going to go over today. So we're going to do a quick little intro. I've got another person that's on the call with me that will be presenting. But before we get to that, the other items are common challenges faced by IT. So I definitely want to give you all a little bit of background on why and the challenges that we were seeing over, here at Velocity, and then even, in other walks of life and, in being in IT for many years. At that point, though, we'll introduce the actual management portal, and we'll give you a demo so you can see it. Some of you I know maybe that are on the call have seen a little sneak peek of it already, but we're going to go through, a demo for you all so you can see it live and in action. The last piece that we'll go over is a case study with a client in the beta testing that saw definitely a lot of value in this, and then we'll conclude with a wrap up and an offer for everybody that was on the call today. So I am Jet Baker, CEO of Velocity, and I also have Carolyn Ellis, who's on this call as well, who's the product manager. And, I got to say, Carolyn, when she came onto this project well over a year ago, I don't think was expecting the amounts of back and forth and nitpicking, but, we really wanted this to be easy to use for our clients and, had a lot of, the initial thought of what it would look like in the end. And she and her team have done just an awesome job of taking that feedback and constantly improving. And we're going to continue to do that, as well. So I'll just say a special thanks to Carolyn for all her efforts, and she'll be walking us through the demo today. So first thing we're going to dive into is common challenges. And the biggest one, this just kind of sums it all up. Managing IT life cycles is very time consuming. And I always like to say it's never a problem until it is. And especially with where we've come from, going back to the 80s with AS400s and P series and mainframes and things like that. And then adding, networks were being built up internally, and then you got to connect to the internet, and then you got to secure them. And then, then these Windows servers came out and on and on and on. And now we're, bursting into clouds using cloud computing. And now we've got to secure that. And all these people are working from home. This whole, IT lifecycle management has gotten, very, very complicated, and timely. So, the first thing we're setting out to challenge is just like, how do we just give people time back and make this less of a headache? Because I imagine everyone that's on this phone call, your goal is to improve the businesses that you work for and not worry about, the insurance, quote unquote, on your assets, when you really need help if something goes down. You want to be proactive in that business. The other big thing, like I kind of mentioned earlier, as I alluded to, right, with all of these changes, there's a ton of different vendors, out there, and it's ever growing. I saw a stat recently that the amount of data just in the cloud is going to go from 380 petabytes to, almost 1,000. So I think that's what a zettabyte or something like that, or maybe I have it, backwards on maybe it's zettabytes, but it's such a big growth factor out there just in cloud computing, and there's a lot of options there. And then you go back to, wait, we have all this on-prem infrastructure. How do we do all these things? And hey, I just bought something from a vendor and they're telling me I have to put a year on it, and I've got this huge rollout, and we're not going to put them all, we're not going to buy it all up front. So now I got multiple open, end dates with this vendor. I want to consolidate, then multiply that by 100 vendors, and it gets to be a real big problem. So all of these things just multiply on itself, and it becomes challenging. So how do we solve for that? That was another question that we had. And then the last piece is just documentation gaps. It's like the first slide, one of the points was I know a lot of people use Excel spreadsheets. That's not always, those are subject to human error, just like anything, right? And things get missed. And, especially as you grow and add locations, or maybe you grow internationally or whatever it is, it becomes more and more complex to make sure that you're actually capturing all those assets that are out there then you become maybe a new person in an organization. Well, how did they do this before? All of these things. So there's always documentation gaps. So how do we help, really to solve for those things? So introducing, and that's what we want to get to today. So as I mentioned, what we're trying to solve for when we hear all those challenges is we want, how can we get one number to call? Is there a way that we can show people all of the assets that they have in one place? Whether it's, assets that we're, directly supporting, with third-party maintenance or directly with the OEM. Is there a way to open tickets in one place? There's, I'm sure a lot of you on this phone call have, a Cisco account, a VMware account, a Microsoft account, all of these different vehicles, or a Dell account, right, that you use to open a ticket with. And just, remembering that, who owns that, who has that, that's just one more layer of management. So how can we make that process easier? And then, how do we also give visibility? So as I get to the next slide here, this is exactly what we were trying to solve for. We're trying to get a complete IT management tool that has everything in a single pane of glass, that has complete life cycle management. So, that's another big factor right there, right, is I had this happen in the past life with a client that had a bunch of Cisco gear. They actually went through the whole process of consolidating their SmartNet, and they didn't realize that, some of those assets after 2 years were end of service life, and there was no good way to show that. So, how do we identify that, for you as well? So then, hey, to put third-party maintenance on or time to replace that asset. And then, of course, the last piece here, what the portal allowed to do is submit service tickets. So, and really where we're going with this, as I mentioned earlier, is we want you to be able to open a service ticket with us, and that would go to either, the assets we're covering or assets that aren't covered by us, but maybe directly by an OEM, to be that single conduit to do that. We once, just for reference, we lost an opportunity, a rather big one around Cisco and supporting switches, because of course there was a lot of switches they wanted under SmartNet, but there was a lot that they could help save money on with third party, and the CIO at the time, with all of the different techs, didn't want to make it confusing to know which number to call, as a result of getting support. So then they just ended up spending a lot more, went the Cisco direct route, and that was, obviously that's one of the reasons why, we feel like this is so important for our clients, because ultimately they like the service, they like the idea, they like the savings, but it came down to just, the operational piece and making sure people were educated. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Carolyn to show a demo of the tool itself. And as she wraps up, we'll talk about a case study and then go into any questions and wrap this up. So Carolyn, I'll hand it over to you.
Hi, welcome to the portal demo. I'm going to walk you through all the portal capabilities, starting with the homepage. Let's start with the Add Tickets button in the header. This will follow you through the entire portal, so you can place a ticket no matter what screen you are on. The rest of the homepage gives you a quick look at some other important information. Here you can see contracts, assets, and tickets. Everything on here is clickable, so you can dive deeper and see more information when needed. We will go into those a little more later. In the middle, you can see 2 pie charts. These are tracking days until contract renewal and asset contractual status. Days until contract renewal shows you contracts that are more than 90 days out from their end date, contracts that are 30 to 90 days out from renewal, contracts that are ending between now and 30 days, and finally, contracts that have expired. You're able to click into each one of these to see the contracts that fall into that category. Here you can see contracts that are expiring within the next 30 days. The asset contractual status shows assets that are on contracts, assets that have been taken off of contracts or terminated, assets that have been added to the portal but are not currently on a contract or not covered, and assets that have expired from coverage. You're able to click into each of these categories just like on the days until contract renewal chart. At the bottom of the homepage, there's another tickets view that gives you a more high-level overview of ticket count and what stage they are currently in, whether new, open, pending, or closed. Lastly, there's a locations map. Each location can be opened to show all of the assets that are currently at that specific location. This is super helpful when you have a lot of locations with a lot of different assets. Here you can see all the locations that are located at the Arlington site. Let's dive a little deeper into everything you need to create a contract or asset, and let's look at the menu bar. To see all the locations, you can click into the locations on the menu dropdown. To create a new one, you can either click the plus on the drop-down menu here, or go into the locations list and click the plus on the bottom right corner. All list pages have a search function. First, select what you are filtering by, and then you can type in and search. You can dive deeper into a location to see all assets that are located there, as well as any contacts that are associated with that location as well. From there, we can go to the Contracts tab. Same thing here. You can add one from the drop-down menu or go into the Contracts list and add one here as well. You can click into a contract to view more information on it. Here you can see all of the contracts that are allocated to that specific contract. Next up on the drop-down menu is Users. This is where you can add anyone that will be using the portal. Moving on, we can go into Assets. Here you will see a list of all assets, whether they are on a contract or not. From the asset list page, you can see a lot of information about each asset, including the name, which can be changed to be whatever name is easiest for you. A lot of customers have their own naming scheme, and that can be added here. From this view, you can also add a ticket straight from the asset right here. You can see that it auto-populates ticket information at the top. On the asset list, each asset is selectable, allowing you to dispose, extend, maintain, sell, or modify the contract terms. This is an easy and quick way to let us know if you have any changes that you need to specific assets. Like contracts and assets, you can add a singular asset here. You can also add multiple by using this bulk upload. There is a CSV file on this page with instructions on what is required for the bulk upload. If you would like a deeper dive into bulk uploads, let us know and we can go more in depth into that. Next, we can go into contacts. This is where you can add anyone that is allocated to a certain location. Lastly, on the drop-down menu, we have tickets. This is where you'll be able to see a list of all tickets placed and any additional information on them. This was a high-level overview of the portal, showing the home features as well as everything you would need to do in order to add more assets and contracts to track. Let us know if you have any questions or need any additional help. Thanks so much.
All right. So thank you for that. And thanks for watching that demo, everybody. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea. Definitely went a little bit fast, but if for those of you that have assets with us or want to upload anything into the portal, we can start doing that for you, immediately. Anyone that already has a contract with us should already have access to this. And if you don't, or you haven't had a demo yet, please reach out to your sales rep and they'll get you going there. But everybody should be loaded and ready to go, at least for assets that we have. Next, I'm just going to jump into like a quick case study for this, which I think, this is a kind of a big example, but my 10-year career, I've seen this, over and over again. The biggest part, the case from the case study, is, and I'll just give you a little bit of a background. So this is a retail client. You definitely would probably recognize their name, but from a privacy standpoint, I'll just say that they're retail. They have 500 stores. They have multiple distribution centers across the country. They have a headquarters location as well. And now with work from home and COVID and things like that, most of their folks that aren't in a store are working from home. So their challenge was, and I always say too, when we talk about asset management, obviously we're going to track anything that we're working with you on already and we're supporting. But if there's other things to start at, I always say start with one vendor first. and then, move through the process. So in this scenario, the one vendor that was giving them a lot of headaches, as you can imagine, was network, because every time they started opened a new store, uh, did a new build out for a store, there was differing end dates, and they got to the point where literally, they had a different contract every single week coming due with Cisco, and it was just, it's a complete mess and nightmare. So by leveraging us, what we did is we put everything into the portal, so that they had some visibility first. Some of probably like Excel spreadsheets. Others, I mean, I'm a visual person, so I like to see where everything lines up in a nice visual sense. And I think once they saw that, it was it was obvious, like, gosh, we got to do something about this. Number one, we need to consolidate so that we're not trying to track every single renewal that's coming up. And let's figure out a better way to do this. And through that process, they were able to uncover a bunch of different things. I mean, one, that I thought was pretty interesting is one of their colo locations. They said, well, those assets shouldn't be covered, and they're just sitting in a rack in a data center. So that uncovered the fact that they could literally clear space out and hit maybe sell some of that to us, so get some money out of it. The other big thing that they found out was that they had a lot of assets that they were looking to roll off out of their environment, but they needed some type of temporary fix to support. So they put third-party maintenance on it, sent it out for 6 months, and if they need another 6, they'll add it. So they were able to, not only did it help them consolidate, with Cisco, but it also allowed them to designate which assets they wanted to go where. So, now they have everything under one system, under one management. Their data center spend, in theory, is reduced, although I believe they're, reusing that for other, assets that they're going to put into production. And then, they just have this strategic place, and plan in place, going forward. And that kind of leads us to this next page. So, really, what are we going after? Like, what is our hope for our clients is that, by working with us and collaborating with us, is that we're going to definitely, help you save on soft cost savings, and just from a management standpoint. And from that visibility, there's a big opportunity to save hard costs. And, I'll just say, there was another client of, this is going back before the portal, but, just as an example of where I believe we can always help is, I won't name the vendor, but big vendor name that you all know. This was with a hospital during COVID times. Their renewal on maintenance for all the different products they had in there was $1.3 million. And so they came to us. The total bill to cover that with third-party maintenance was $400,000. And what ended up happening is they got a significant discount on the products that they wanted to keep, and then they put third-party on the things that they weren't in production for them at the time, and they were able to cut their costs down to about $700,000 overall. So a big deal, big kudos for their team, because as a hospital, as technically a not-for-profit hospital, they were looking for every dollar they could because of COVID and not being able to, do those money-making procedures. So definitely there to help you, give you a better visibility in the savings, and then also, better forecasting. So you really know what's coming up, and you have a good idea of what's not only with us, but with other OEMs manufacturers. And then, of course, that helps to reduce contract complexity. I found, I had a client once upon a time that same problem as a Cisco, client that we just helped, but they had a bunch of different VMware contracts, and it was all over the board. And once they were able to kind of consolidate everything to one end date and all their maintenance, it became a bigger deal. So VMware, as a result, wanted to get it in earlier, and they were able to get, a better discount just on the maintenance. Then, of course, mitigated downtime risk. A big problem with having so many different dates out there is that things get missed, and you call them for support, and then you don't have it. So, those are the 5 or the 6 true goals that we're hoping that you see and working with us on this. And, our offer for those of you that are interested is, we're giving away a free asset, for every 5 that are ordered. Or I should say the first 5 that are ordered, there's a free asset. And for those of you that already have something, it'd be like with the new line. So if you're doing Dell with us today and you want to cover some assets under Cisco, that would apply there. So without further ado, I guess we've got about 5 minutes left for any questions. I'm going to go check the bar if anybody asked any. Let me see. I don't have any questions in the box, but if you have any questions, please enter them in and I'll be happy to answer it here. Well, good. Well, it looks like no questions. I did wait the 7 seconds. Oh, no, there might be one here. Hold on. Yeah, so the question was, you mentioned one call feature for maintenance. Is that part of third-party maintenance costs, or is it in addition to? That would be in addition to. It depends on what we're going to be, managing for you. I mean, really, it becomes kind of like a managed service. But if you did want, let's pick a manufacturer, Dell, per se, and you just want one number to call for all of that, depending upon the assets and what it is, you want us to do on your behalf for Dell specifically, there would be some type of cost added to that. It just kind of depends, again, on the product set and what it is. But hopefully that answers the question. Question about switches and other networking assets. Yep, this would include, for those of you who haven't seen our line card, I'll have in our follow-up, we'll add that, as well. So you can see all the different OEMs that we cover under third party, but it does include all of those too. I'd say just the only ones for those of you, that maybe just tell you something we don't cover. Right now, we're not covering Pure Storage under third-party maintenance, as an example. We can still be a conduit to that if you'd rather have, if you're interested in the one number thing. But they're one that right now there's not like a third-party option for them. Well, awesome. Well, I don't believe there's any other questions coming through. I, again, really appreciate everybody joining. I know some of you have heard about this for a while, and we made a lot of, edits and fixes because we really wanted it to be as easy and user-friendly as possible. And we're just so excited that it's here today. And, obviously, if you have any questions, please reach out to your account executive, or, feel free to reach out to sales@velocitytechsolutions.com. And, we'll be happy to answer any other additional one-off questions that you may have on this program in the portal. Thank you so much.